I've been I got to listen to Rain and Tori, and it's fantastic because it really works with this topic of motivational interviewing, and particularly motivational interviewing in the workplace. So I do work at Banner University Health Plans, and I'll introduce myself in just a second. But has anybody ever experienced when someone asks you what you do for a living, or they want to know, tell me your worst thing ever? That's what I was thinking about. You go to parties and people that are outside the business will say, oh, tell me the worst call you ever ran. It's like, thanks for bringing that up. Right. So I have loads of jobs. My most important job, of course, is at Banner University Health Plans. I'm the Associate Director for Crisis and Justice Systems within Arizona. And I have a fantastic team that we all help the individuals that are Banner members and sometimes outside of Banner with if they have any justice involvement, as well as if they've have called and contacted our crisis more than 3 times, right? They get kind of flagged. Of course, they're flagged through our care management teams, but then they come to us if they have also a justice involvement. So we really do try to help those individuals. And then, so I've been there 2 years now, and I've also worked for the Chandler Fire Department. It's going on 9 years, and love that work. I'm able to kind of use my clinical skills and also teach. I'm currently teaching an asynchronous class at ASU. If you wonder how I do everything, sometimes it's not live. And so I'm teaching social workers, which I'm not a social worker. I have a master's in counseling psychology from Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. And so they let me teach social worky things, and sometimes I slide in some of that psychology stuff as well. And then started my own business in 2020. So I get to teach internationally. It's fantastic. Used to be up to 8 Starbucks a day. So when Tori was talking about taking care of yourself, that's one of the things that really resonated with me too, is making some changes positive. I'm also known as D Nice in most settings, most stations, I would say. So that's my street name, I like to say. So motivational interviewing in the workplace, what does that look like? How, use the chat if you can. I might go off camera if I'm unstable. Are you guys able to see me? Are you there?
Yeah, Denise, we could see you, but you're frozen. So yeah, maybe go off camera if you want to, and then see if that helps with your bandwidth.
Yeah, sometimes I shut down the internet. Of course, it's Murphy's Law day today, so
yes,
that's
all right. We can hear you.
Okay, as long as you can hear me, it's good.
Yeah.
So when, how do you use motivational interviewing? How does it play a role in the workplace? And the angle I took this at, this is me and Dr. Miller. He's the creator of motivational interviewing. Looking at how you can start to assess a situation. So have you ever had a person, if you supervise somebody, something's happened, and immediately you have, right, it's embarrassing maybe to you, or something's happened, like Rain had talked about the firefighter sitting on the countertop, right, of somebody, how would you approach that? There's probably indoor thoughts that want to come outdoors right away, but how do you kind of take a step back and look at this a little bit differently? Because it's really easy for us to go into an authoritative type response, but using motivational interviewing in the workplace changes that. And a lot of times people have the answers inside themselves. It also allows you to kind of test the knowledge of the person that you're supervising. So it gives them an opportunity. So just a real quick recap. These are the 3 main communication styles that we would use. Obviously, motivational interviewing being the guiding style, but let's just click through these super quick little refresher, just in case somebody hasn't had it. So we're going to use the following style when we have bad news. We want to build rapport. We need to just listen to somebody. Someone has received bad news. We're just there with that empathetic ear. The focus is really on the person. It's not about us to start sharing, and it's their agenda, right? So we're not confronting them. We're just being there to understand them. Now, I always think the directing style there's new changes. Instead of the writing reflex, it's now called the fixing reflex in the new book from Miller and Rolnick. But we use this for safety concerns. I use this on scene when I need to keep the occupants from entering their home that might be on fire. If there's frustration, right, sometimes can occur if you use the directing style. So you want to try to explain the situation as much as possible. It might increase what we call sustained talk or resistance if we use too much of this, not just with the people we're working with, but also our own employees that we're supervising. And there's two sides to this. And so I got to bring in some Star Wars. So there's the light side and there's the dark side of the directing style. Now there's new changes again with motivational interviewing. You've all heard of OARs probably. Your open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. We're going to talk about those. But now they're saying we want to have directional OARs. So we know based off of questions we've asked, we might even ask closed questions to provide us a rudder to know where we're going with the person. And so it's not always a bad thing, right? But we can look at the light side of the directing style and how do we create a structure of a conversation. I know as a therapist back in the day, 5 minutes to 5 on a Friday, someone would say, I'm feeling suicidal. And it's like, so how do I, knowing that that person has that history, how do I kind of approach it earlier in the conversation instead of waiting till the end? And then on the dark side, we might try to fix things. Wait, are first responders fixers? Are you kidding me? Yes, just a bit, right? How many of you, raise your hand, you know that we're fixers. And so we also have those roadblocks to communication, which are Thomas Gordon from the 1970s created 12 roadblocks that we see as communication barriers. So when we look at that, how do we provide proper assistance to somebody who might be in need of something? So we would do this if it's a safety concern. Am I still with you guys or did I lose you?
You're still with us, Denise. I took a video off because
Thank you. That's what happened. Okay, because my I thought my internet went down for a second. I was like, oh my gosh, no one.
Yeah, so let's leave it off. Thank you.
And I even curled my hair because Kevin usually gives me trouble. So
Hey, you look great. You look great. Thank you.
Probably better. Style is motivation. Okay, 80-20 rule is usually what we strive for in counseling. 80% the person's talking, 20% we are. In a crisis situation, probably a 90-10 rule. And this helps engage the person. It helps build trust very quickly. 7 to 90 seconds, people will suss us up, right? And this includes the people that we supervise. Can they trust us? Do they want to talk to us? If you ask somebody a question, how many of you have ever been in a situation, you have a meeting and they ask for feedback and no one gives it, but then as soon as you're out the door, you're like, that was a bunch of blah, 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 right? So people they have ideas, they're afraid to share them maybe in that environment. So how do you create an environment as a supervisor to allow people to share really what they're feeling? So motivational interviewing, again, here's some changes for the 2023 book. And it's looking at, it's for fostering change and growth. And this fits in really well in the workplace and how I think they've made it more, relatable across other professions. So when we're looking at these 3 styles, all are valuable. We're going to use them at different times. But when we are looking for exploring some motivation and commitment to changing behaviors, we're going to use the guiding style, which is motivational interviewing. And it's all about the mix. I don't know if anybody, I am notorious for being in friends' cars and saying, you need some more bass. You need some more 808 here. It always cracks me up when I walk in somewhere and they have like the worst speakers ever. I don't know if anybody's been to Kirkland Home, but their speakers are horrid. So I digress. All right, so motivational interviewing, excuse me, is used with people, not on them. So we're not like tricking people. We're not doing something, some voodoo, right? You're really just, it's about them and what their needs are. And if you listen, you'll hear it. So it's really you and the others that you're working with create that working alliance. So when we look at coaching, in these 4 steps of coaching, we're observing what they're doing. We kind of, and looking at strengths and weaknesses, or, you know, opportunities to grow. I like, you know, that way of reframing it. Discussion. So we look at actual observation of behaviors. Hey, if you were to do that again, would you do it? You know, we kind of walk through being truthful and supportive, being that coach, clarify what, you know, with some guiding questions, and then actually active coaching, because the behaviors won't get better if we don't help coach. So I see this like field officer training, when we have our probationary firefighters, right? We have interns and from ASU, and we have our volunteers, and we're always coaching, right? We're always looking at that. And then we've got to follow up, monitor how they're doing. So this is for my dispatchers out there. And I don't know if this happens, but give me a love if it does. So when we never use the Q word, right? That's against the rules. So just wanted to throw that in there for randomness. Engagement. So we look at connecting with the person, making sure they feel understood. You know, look, you know, at what's going on. Are they picking up things, checking in with them, and just spending a few extra minutes with them at the beginning and the end of the day. You know, what happened? How'd you feel? How are things going? What can I do to help? Right? Words of encouragement. I got this off of his Instagram page, and I think it's a really good quote. No, I'm just kidding. My battalion chief says this all the time, and it's so true, right? People feel how you treat them. And so I think that's the key piece. And I was just at another training event, and one of the guys said, right, because he doesn't even treat himself well. So we need to treat ourselves well. We need to treat others well. So one of the first things we look at is assessing the situation. So you're going to be working with hopefully highly motivated people. And you also want to kind of look at, is there a different method, right? Or there's some things that I need to look at and assess. So I when I started at Banner, I wanted to really ask my team, what things are working for you? What things would you like to improve? And that was very beneficial, right? I could see I could help with a couple of things that were really important that they wanted changes to, and then we could work long-term game on some other ones. So achieving goals as a team, and you know, I want to have fun while I'm doing the job, and I want my team to have fun. I also want people to know that we give results, right? And so that embodies what our team is all about. So step 2 is kind of setting up a coaching session. You know, you've gathered your information. Now you want to get deeper into their world. So let's personalize it, right? Let's look at how can we help them through something that they're struggling. What's something you'd like to work on? What are short-term goals? What are long-term goals? And this is coming from them. Now we can have some insight, as you know, I can use a reflection or an affirmation to kind of pull out some of that for somebody if they're not seeing it themselves. But these are things that we kind of try to look for. So be curious, not judgmental. Ted Lasso, he says it was Walt Whitman, and I went down the rabbit hole of I like the Google. I like the nightlife. I like to Google, and it was not. It was actually Walt Whitman. They said that he never said that. So I'm going to give it to Ted Lasso. Okay. And I think it's important for us to kind of look at these things and and not judge somebody. I mean, half the time, the reason why people don't want to share in first responder world is they feel like they're going to be judged. So I ask you, what's a referee's job? Can anybody tell me? I'm so alone. Sometimes I'm alone. Anybody knows that TikTok? You are my friend. You call it like you see it. Okay, so a referee, right, is there to enforce the rules of the game. Would we agree with that? Yep, ensures the people are following the rules. What about a job of a coach? Are you going to win every game? We try to make sure our players are prepared to play the game and motivate them to do their best, right? So I would like you to put that coaching hat on, be that MI coach with your staff. And so this is another big switch. So they used to call these the four processes, probably because it's difficult to say. And now they just say four tests, which I like so much better. And, engaging sometimes, and think about this is applicable to the people we run calls on, and then the people that we're working with, right, in our world. And even, I would say, at home. So Miller and Rolnick say, don't try this at home, but I say do, but with informed consent. Okay. You got to practice. So engaging, using your directional oars, trying to accurately understand that person's perspective. So, right? Oh, that the person might say something. We're like, whoop, let's go to the plan. We miss the guts of the sandwich here, and we don't really understand their story or how they got there. And I hear a lot of times, well, I get a person to a certain place, but then they lose motivation because was it their plan or your plan, right? So this is not linear. It builds upon, right? You can always go back to engaging. It's a foundation, and we want to keep pace throughout. So if any MI people out there, pace is partnership, acceptance, compassion. It used to be called evocation, but now it is empowerment. So that's the new 2023 language, right? So step 3 is allowing time for this person to talk. Maybe it's just a brief intervention, a few minutes. You're going to plant some seeds with this person. You look at time, just maybe for us to have a little bit of like kind of one-liners or something. We give time for the employee to enact changes, right? It's important to give them time and they talk to change. But I have, he's actually my CEO now, but he was my manager way back in the day. We worked together at Value Options, and he was so great about still is, about bringing ideas and how to get buy-in, right? He would make it our plan, not just his. And I think that's why he's risen to being our vice president and CEO. So it's fantastic. So we look at how do we do that, right? So steps, we set up additional coaching sessions. Then after giving them time, we try to formulate that. And, we look at how can these sessions be, and how do we come together and make it a partnership, a true partnership. So another new little, I love this from Miller and Rolnick, is called rapid engaging. And we can use this in the crisis world for sure. Rapid engaging is an initial period of exclusive listening without, the investigative questions, problem solving, or interruptions. How many of us could translate this to all aspects of our life? How many of us try to fix it as soon as someone brings us something at home, at work, right? And, it would be useful just to take that moment, just to stay there with the person and just listen, not judge. Right? I love that. We don't always have to swoop in and help. I was looking at memes and I saw this one. I have felt this as a single parent. because sometimes people want you to be at meetings and it's in the middle of the day and you can't do that either. So it's just kind of funny. So anyway, haha. How do we take it to the next level and apply it? Well, let's just explore those ORs. Okay, so a lot of you are familiar with these. Now we're looking at directional ORs, and we're going to take it to a different place. Okay, so I'll give you some examples of these open-ended questions, right, when we're looking for an ORs, and these are stems. So closed is it's going to have a yes, no. Now, sometimes we need to know a direction, like I said, ask a closed question to provide you with a direction, and that's your rudder. But then open it up, right? You can't just solely that stem, the ability for that person to want to share. So directional question is a strategic question, the natural answer to which is change talk. So we're really shooting for that change talk. How can this, question help this person engage? So here we go. I've got some examples up here of some, open-ended, the difference between open-ended questions and closed-ended questions, but these match up. So if you were to say, would this change be good for your health, finances, happiness? What are some pros and cons of change in this situation? So, yes is going to have to elaborate and give you more information on the open-ended. So these are just some ways. I like, do you want to improve? Seems a little bit, parental. And so yes, no, what values are most important to you? And then you can kind of have a discussion off of that. Did you make a mistake? Yes or no? If you could go back in time, what would you do differently? And get kind of into the mind of your employee. So hopefully these are hitting for you. And would you, if you're not a supervisor, do you wish your supervisor would talk to you this way? Right? So you're like, I went to a training today. This would be great. We look at these open-ended questions. It helps, understand their experience, their feelings. I've been using this on my kids since they were little, offering choice and a voice within their world. And again, more open-ended questions. I do want to say there is a caveat to the why. I would be cautious using why, because why can have a defensive response. Like if I ask my kids, why didn't you empty the dishwasher? And my daughter responds, do you want us to fail school? I'm like, wow, that escalated quickly, right? So we might want to back that up. Tell me about the obstacles in your way that you weren't allowed able to unload the dishwasher. Now I just have bad roommates that are over 18, right? That's what I like to say. So we want to ask, don't tell people what to do. I know this seems funny, but again, these are where these open questions. So where would you like to start? How can I assist you with, what have you tried before? I want to know, what helps you be successful. I want some intel. I want to understand their story. So now we're going to look at affirmations. And with these, it's not just you have eyes and you see things with those eyes. It's like legit information that we can pull. This is hard work you're doing. You're dealing with a tough situation right now and managing it really well, and you can explain what that is. So it's a way for us to build some rapport. And also affirmations are statements that really accentuate the positive and acknowledging that person's strengths and efforts. So when we try to form these, we really you're a strong person, a real survivor. You notice and appreciate things. I appreciate your openness today. We try to reflect changes. The employee might say, I feel bad because I drank. The helper, you're feeling down that you didn't stick to your plan. 2 months ago, you were drinking daily. Affirm, what do you believe, right? Affirm what you believe and what the positive traits are for that person. So you got really discouraged this week, but you still came back. You're persistent, right? So these things that we kind of try to bring about. So just these affirmations, you've been making strides, all these, that's a good suggestion. If I were in your shoes, I don't know if I could have managed it nearly as so well. I want you to think back to an affirmation that you've received recently, or it could be years ago, I don't know, right? But I want you to write it down, and if you're willing, I'd love for you to share it in the chat. I like to read good stuff, right? These are positive things about you. So I'll give you a moment. Are you guys with me? Are you writing down things?
We're here. I don't see anything in the chat just yet.
Okay. Am I sounding like a robot sometimes? I'm sorry.
Totally.
Yes.
So you need to clear your cache and cookies from settings and then restart your device to fix your Zoom audio, but we can't do
Wow.
it.
Right now.
Yeah, next time you
Right now.
have to do that,
Okay.
and it will improve your Zoom audio.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
You want to repeat
love-
your question one more time, Denise?
Yeah, if you could write, think about an affirmation you've received recently, or even if it was months or years later. Why do you recall it now? Is that something you kind of kick back to when you're having a hard day? We were just talking about compassion fatigue and burnout and all those things. I noticed that you worked really hard to get that group together. Excellent.
My guy still thinks I'm, looking great after all these years. Every single time I pass by, he says, "What an ass."
But I like that one. Your passion for people makes me so happy. That's outstanding, Meredith.
Kimberly, that sounds like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, did my mom write that? Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. It's not one to praise your mother. I love her, but I've been working on my mom doing cognitive behavioral therapy with her. So for every negative thing she says, I ask her to give me. It's supposed to be 6 positive, but I work on 2. We're doing baby steps.
Baby steps.
This isn't fun. I go, it's not meant to be. I'm reprogramming you. People like working with you because it's clear you care. The quality of care shows. That's awesome, Jesse. Yeah. Help as many people as you can for as long as you can. You're one of the nicest counselors. You really care. You see these, you deserve this. Yes. See, these are nice. These feel good. And let me tell you something. I can tell that you get it. Yes, that's a good one, Gina. Do we get enough of this? Do we get enough coming back to fill our tank? Probably not. But if we give it a little bit more, right? We're putting it out there in the universe and we're going to manifest these affirmations. So thank you for playing along. I appreciate it. So reflections, right? These reflections show people that we're getting it. So when we look at reflections, help us to develop these discrepancies, what's going on between one behavior and another in a non-judgmental way. And it actually gets that person to self-confront, which is lovely. Reflections are statements of observation, not questions. So in Ireland, everything is a question at the end. We go up with that. So you got to make sure you stick your landing down when you're given one of these. Okay. So the goal is to point out feelings and concerns that the person may not realize on their own. So let's get into this. Okay. So we must engage in active listening, right? We've got to tie into what the person is saying, and we're there to support them. And so and it's not just at work, this is at home as well. We might use things like, these are a little bit of training wheel in some ways. What I heard was, or you feel like, or you indicated, different things like that. You're wondering if, right? We're getting some things out there, but that's okay. We're learning. someone says, I'm struggling with my time management, and you've noticed because the person's maybe not logging on, they're not showing up, you know, I've never seemed to have time to get to my appointments. You know, so tell me what is working for you, and what is working, and then what can I do to help you? What's something that I can do? And if they go, I have no idea, say, I might have some ideas. Are you open to hearing them? Right. And we're going to talk about that in just a couple slides. But that is a key piece when you're doing this work. So summary is that fourth bit. When we look at the ORs, that's the S. It's just brief, 3 to 4 sentences, and it's just a good way to check in. But we're going to use it with intention, right? We want to connect with that person. So these summaries are really just a couple of reflections, and then we generally ask an open question at the end. And we're just trying to really connect to make sure we understood what they were saying. And that's the bean. I was in Chicago. My dad's from Chicago, so Southside Irish. Good listening is an act of humility. It's really about us being there and connecting with the person. So when we use MI as a supervision style, and we kind of use our MI spirit or pace, right? That's the partnership. We're in a we. We're in it accepting where they're at, because that's important to know. Compassion, something we need more of. And then now, instead of, is so important with our staff, right? Not being micromanaged, but trying to meet them where they're at. I think that's really important. So that active listening, non-judgmental, trying to use, let's say, more expert level is 70% open to closed. So we try to hit those marks, and then using more affirmations because recognition is free. So that's a big thing. And when we are using empathy in coaching, that person, they will, you know, we're willing to listen to their story. We're willing to connect with them. It just, it makes for better connection and overall happiness on the job. So you can have less people. I read something, people leave managers, they don't necessarily leave jobs. So how many of you have ever been micromanaged? Give me a thumbs down, if you would. Yeah. Exactly. All right, so here's, you know, this is where we're going to ask, hey, can I ask you, you know, can I provide some information? Are you open to some thoughts I might have? Or I might have some ideas that could be helpful if you're interested. When we ask in this way, then the person is more receptive to it. So it's now, it used to be called elicit, provide, elicit. The new book says ask, offer, ask. So you see, there's kind of, they're making it more streamlined across the board. But there's, you know, there's something I've seen that seems to work for others. Is that something you'd like to hear about? Provide that information, and then say, is that something that might work for you? Or how does that fit in for you? Or what do you make of that? Or which one sounds most appealing, right? Getting them to connect. So it's a delicious sandwich, right? Now, obviously, if there is something dangerous or inappropriate going on, you have to shift to that directive approach and say clearly and directly, this is what's going on. These are the boundaries, right? We know that. And that's why I included the directing style in the 3 communication styles. But it is really helpful when you can offer this little, even a feedback sandwich as well. You know, for us and feedback is something feel what's been going on. So using these skills MI in a intentional way, it, you know, MI isn't difficult, but what I see is it's taking it to that next level and using it with intention and the directional piece. So in summary, we're just looking at coaching and overall, you kind of provide, you know, these basics, right? And try to do more of the things on this left-hand side. So more listening, more reflecting, more being curious, focusing on the strengths, the positives in their life, and really empathizing with them. And even as an employee, if you communicate as well as your supervisor, you're going to be happier, because let's face it, relationships go bad when there's lack of communication or poor communication. So, and then we know do less of the other stuff. So MI is directional and purposeful. And here I'm going to throw it up here, and I want to open it up for some discussion. But here's just 5 tips for effective motivational interviewing in the workplace. Things we already know, but things maybe we wish our supervisors would do as well. Went through on this adventure. And another reminder of from earlier when I was listening to Tori and Rain's things, I think Tori had said it. I tend to say this a lot. If don't should on me, right? Has anybody ever given advice and you know what you should do? You should do this. And I encourage people in motivational interviewing, changing your shoulds to coulds offers choice. And just think about that. And should happens. I'm going to sell those in the virtual lobby. Okay, t-shirts. And Kevin will make them because he's so talented. Kevin does everything. Yes. But how many of you have been should on? Anybody? It's not nice, right? So we don't want to use that type of language. So anyway, what's one thing that resonated with you about this? What's something that you learned or reconnected with today? And what's something you might do differently in your interactions going forward? So I'd love, unmute yourself, talk to me, whatever you want. Is there crickets? Is there anybody left on this call? Is it just me, Kevin, and Dara?
Denise, you could put your video back on because it didn't seem to help that much.
Hopefully something.
Video. So you could throw
Oh, with it? Okay. Well, I don't know if I can. Can you put me back on?
We'll have Kevin work on that somehow. He'll do something in the background, I'm sure.
Well, here's the new book. If anybody's interested, just so they can see the one with the star. That's the new book. And
we have Andre Couillard with his hand up, and so I'm gonna see if we could get him to be able to speak. Andre, hi, there you go. Andre, I've given you permission to speak if you want to take yourself off mute and ask whatever question you had.
oh, he said it was an accident. He's like, I don't want to talk.
No worries. No,
not love replacing could with should, but yeah, you want to replace should with could. Absolutely. So I'll pop on video here. Let's see.
Great.
An older one using motivational interviewing with Native Americans. This is corrections. These are free resources. So by all means, use those. And then just, questions. We're here to help each other. There's my contact information. And then I think this next meme I'm going to put up is really meant for Kevin, because I know how hard he's been working. So there you go, Kev. I got to end on Baby Yoda. Grogu.
No big deal. No big deal. I've done more than last time.
That's true. Yeah. I do want to offer out there. I know we have the Arizona Summit coming up at Chandler Public Safety Center on March 7th and 8th in 2024. And we would love, if anybody out there listening, you think you'd love to do a presentation. So we haven't yet done a call for presenters, but check out our website and we would love to
Soon.
entertain that. Yeah. So thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, Denise. We have in the chat here some comments and then some feedback too. I don't know if you want to address some of it in some time that you have left, but your presentations are always so much fun, and it was different to obviously have that kind of technical difficulties, but still I think that people got a gist of
Yeah,
it.
sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Who would have known that your cookies had to get cleared? Except Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin, yeah, he's amazing.
There's one here from Jesse. I've been trying to practice the being curious. It takes 2 skills more. It helps to ask questions with proper wording so that nothing is getting assumed and everyone is on the same page. I used to think asking questions was argumentative, but I learned that with proper wording and to not be attacking with words, you can have constructive conversations. I am curious though, if we were to throw this into a like female to female communication versus female to male versus male to female, have you seen a difference in the way that this works because of gender role stereotypes or power and control dynamics or types of settings, other factors that you think influence the motivational interviewing paradigm?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that those all are variables that we have to look at, and it depends on your own comfort level too, right? How are you, if you're the employee, or you're the supervisor, how comfortable are you in that environment? And is even looking at, I've worked in the past some toxic work environments, and where they're, I love it when supervisors say, oh, I have an open door policy, but it's not really open, like they'll say the things, you know, but they're not, they're saying, oh, I use motivational interviewing, but they don't,
Door is always open to you. Now, please close it on your way out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I mean, I just try, like, in my longer session, I usually like tap into, like, think about a mentor you've had in your past, a teacher, a family member, even someone you seek counsel from. What attributes do they have? And I try to be that person that I seek out. I learned from that person. And for me, a lot of it was my father. He passed away when I was 24, but I really tried to parent like he did. I try, and obviously add my own flair in it. But he never, like, in his discussions with us, he never made me feel small. And I have been on the receiving end of a supervisor feeling small, and I don't like that. And so learning to stand up for myself as I've gotten older, with respect, and being able to, I like to think about things more now instead of having a quick reaction. I like to marinate over stuff and then say, you know what, I want to get back to you on that. I want to have a think about it. Or what do you think? I kind of pop it back to the person, and we can talk about it and maybe see another side of it. So I always think that's interesting. That's a great question. I do think there's probably differences for sure.
Yeah. I know it's frustrating at times, like, I know, and for whatever is worth it, I have privilege in certain situations, and one of my counterparts was telling me recently, she was saying that, I feel like it's a good old boys club and I don't have the same kind of pull that you have with these folks. And I was like, I feel really bad about that. I mean, it's something that I want to be able to help influence and to help change, so that way, we have equal footing in being able to communicate with these folks. But it takes time, I suppose, to figure out how to do something like that, right? And
I know someone asked for the resource. It's Native American Motivational Interviewing, Weaving Native American and Western Practices. It's a manual for counselors in Native American communities. And it's from, I think it's 2006.